Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation. First up we have my speech given at the World Federation for Mental Health Biennial Congress 2003, and this retake here is an unedited version. Then for a bit of fun we will close my presentation with a look at my art gallery. So thank you for your time and I hope you enjoy them both. Anyone who has the capacity to conquer the nightmare of schizophrenia has every absolute right to blow their own trumpet and speak out about such. And if that can help and inspire others looking for hope and survival, then that is a good thing. Any illness prevents us from being who and what we truly are. Schizophrenia is an illness, not a person. Hello everyone, my name is Spencer. I have recovered from schizophrenia, and for many years now I have lived symptom-free and side-effect-free from the illness. This is my second public appearance and I feel just as nervous and exposed as the first. However, I will still do my best to give you an interesting and inspiring presentation. I'm here today to represent those of us who are the unsung success stories of mental illness, those of us who have regained our normal self and now live healthy, regular lives. To start with, I will give you a bit of insight into my experience with the illness, and then I would like to touch upon my areas of interest, the holistic and transpersonal areas of psychosis. My first encounter with the illness occurred when I was 20. Triggered into my life due to excessive stress, worry and concern on my behalf, resulting from a certain traumatic situation faced at the time. From this, my worries fell into anxiety, and my anxiety then tragically fell into the depths of psychosis. At the time I experienced psychosis for about 2 weeks, with a climax period featuring audio hallucinations, lasting for about half a day. And this till date has been the only time of any such hallucinations. It took a good 10 months to recover from this initial episode, during which time depression heavily featured before finding my foundations again. Since that initializing experience, I've encountered another 3 mild relapses, lasting no longer than 2 to 3 weeks for each. And these brief encounters featured situations of referral, and as a result, paranoid thinking on my behalf. It is important to note that the illness was not triggered by any use of drugs, as I've never been influenced by such. For each encounter with the illness, I've recovered back to normal regular health again. It has now been 3 years since my last encounter, and I now feel I have the experience and insight to prevent further relapses. Although I rely on a small dose of medication to help assist in sustaining normal regular health, I no longer have any symptoms or side effects associated with the illness. Paranoia, delusions, hallucinations, disjointed body and facial expression, mumble distorted speech, limited retarded eye motion, or lack of concentration. Regarding medication, I would like to dispel here and now a certain demoralizing prejudice about such. Many people take certain medicine to help sustain normal health. Even having a regular dosage of exercise assists in keeping normal regular health. Regardless of whatever medium, physical and or medicated, just about every single human being partakes in a certain practice that assists in keeping normal regular health. And therefore, whatever medium sorted, physical and or medicated, it should not be judged in a prejudiced light, since both do exactly the same job and the same outcome is desired from both, normal regular health. Before I continue, I would like to make it clear that using the word recovery does not imply cured from the illness. Cured implies that the illness is totally devoid of your individual system and will never return upon you again. I have not and will never state that here or in any of my work. What I do vouch for, though, as being living proof of that, I will absolutely state beyond all doubt that it is totally possible for individuals who encounter this horrific illness can make a full and successful recovery from it back to normal regular health and function. just as they were before the illness ever came upon them. And providing they conduct themselves accordingly, a person may prevent the illness from ever striking back again with further ongoing relapses. And speaking bluntly, if someone as ordinary as myself has the capacity to conquer such a devastating illness, then anyone else has just as much ability, if not more so, to overcome it. Now today, I lead a healthy, normal life, totally free from any related features of the illness or medication. I have a structured life, I keep a job, I drive a car just as well and accurately as anyone else with a license. I have a beautiful lady friend, and as my photos show, I participate in all of life's activities just as regular and well as anyone else. I have even backpacked around Europe for a solid fun-packed time without resorting to medication to keep well. People who know me even find it hard to believe that I ever suffered from such an illness, considering my present well-being. And people who I meet for the first time would have absolutely no clue whatsoever to distinguish, discover, or know of my past history with such. Unless, of course, I reveal that openly. And why not? Since my presence being just as mentally well in operation, conduct, and presentation as their own self. However, having said all that, there is no 100% guarantee that I will never encounter another relapse again in my life. But with everything I have gained from my 10 years of experience, I now have substantial tools and armoury to prevent such again. And I will do everything in my power to continue to do so. Having been so well for so long, I decided to write a book on my experiences and to also provide practical steps to overcome psychosis. My book is also available in web format called The Freeman Foundation. I chose the name Freeman as my website conveys the knowledge and experience I have successfully used to be a free man from the chains of mental illness. As mentioned, my work focuses on holistic issues regarding psychosis. Considering this perspective is greatly shunned and not given its due address resulting from the biological materialist methods dominating the industry and media, I feel it is about time a credible and justified address was given by someone experienced in such, both directly and substantially. Thus the reason for devoting my time to conveying such. In his letter of invitation, it was the Prime Minister of Australia, Mr. John Howard himself, who mentioned the global importance of spiritual and ethical concerns regarding mental health. And I am very glad that someone of the Prime Minister's position has been bold enough to openly state the importance of such. I will speak more about holistic and spiritual concerns a little later, but for now I'd like to address more immediate ethical issues regarding schizophrenia. Even though I have won the horrific battle to return to my normal self again, and the illness itself is no longer a part of my life at present, the most frustrating, humiliating and demoralising aspect I find is people like myself, even long after recovery, are still categorised and labelled as a schizophrenic. Not only by society and media in general, but also being addressed as such by doctors, scientists and psychiatrists in the industry. This is extremely inaccurate, and I'll explain why. Health and harmony is the natural state to be. Illness and discord prevents us from keeping that natural state of being, and therefore any illness, no matter what it may be, is something we are not. We all strive for and want health and harmony. No one strives for illness, discord and violation. Why? Because health and harmony is our natural and comfortable state of function. Even when I was sick, even the very first time, it was extremely disturbing and profoundly obvious to me that something was seriously wrong, and I certainly didn't have to rely on any qualified diagnosis to tell me that. I was very much aware of that for myself. You never hear someone who is diagnosed with cancer being called a cancer. They are addressed as having cancer or suffering from cancer. A person is not a Parkinson's disease. They suffer from Parkinson's disease. Keeping this in mind, there are many other illnesses that we label and categorise people as. Take diabetes. It would be far more accurate to say they have diabetes or they suffer from diabetes, rather than to address them as a diabetic. Although not an illness, a person with drinking problems is not an alcoholic. They simply suffer from alcohol debilitation that disables them from normal regular health. I have met many people who do and have suffered from schizophrenia, but never in all my life have I ever come across a schizophrenic. This is a very sensitive and very large issue that needs to be addressed, because for those of us who have struggled with mental illness and now lead normal lives, being categorised as a schizophrenic as opposed to being labelled as a diabetic can be very offensive and degrading to who we truly are. Although Russell Crowe's excellent film A Beautiful Mind has done a wonderful job to help society understand the illness with far more acceptance and compassion, there is still so much collective social ignorance, prejudice and stigma out there about schizophrenia. Even with all the good efforts of education, mental illness is still an issue that is shunned and rejected by mainstream society, who are fortunate enough to have regular mental health and have no need to consider such. We of us who have encountered, and those who still do encounter schizophrenia, first and foremost, we are a human being just like everyone else. We are just a human being who may well be struggling with, or may have even overcome a particular illness that prevents us from keeping normal regular health. Either way, we are a person of equal value, just like anyone else, no matter what position or status in life. In the movie Bicentennial Man, a question is asked of the hero regarding his humanity. Why do you want this? And his answer is very clear. To be acknowledged for who and what I am. No more, no less. Not for acclaim, not for approval, but for the simple truth of that recognition. This has been the elemental drive of my existence, and it must be achieved if I am to live or die with dignity. Although the hero of the movie was initially a robot, I myself am not an artificial machine, but as a human being who has recovered from the degrading, demoralising and humiliating horrors of schizophrenia, I nevertheless account for this attitude with absolute conviction. No matter what the illness, it will never define the human identity or our essential true and pure being. Illness may limit our manifest expression, but our humanity in essence is still and always fully free from such, or any other violation that deprives us from that inner and outer appearance of health. Any illness prevents us from being who and what we truly are. Schizophrenia is an illness, not a person. Thus, there is no such thing as a schizophrenic. You may have noticed my deliberate use of the word normal in my dialogue so far. I have done this as it doesn't cease to amaze me that mainstream society still asks the question, so what is normal anyway? Well, having encountered insanity and having returned to sanity to once again register reality as it actually is, I certainly understand and appreciate the very accurate definition and grammatical term of the word normal, far beyond the appreciation of any normal person who takes that privilege of health and stability for granted and knows no different from having normal regular health. Now I'd like to discuss holistic and transpersonal issues regarding psychosis. Firstly, to generally define transpersonal psychology. It is the field which focuses on experiences, states of consciousness, and ways of being in which the sense of identity extends beyond the individual or personal, to include wider aspects of humankind, nature, or cosmos. Transpersonal, as the word implies, is to transcend, to go beyond the personal. In a nutshell, transpersonal psychology embraces all reality in its totality and accounts to verify the sacred underlying unity and interconnectedness of and throughout all existence. Having myself encountered a very brief yet very intense transpersonal experience during normal regular health, it has certainly clarified my habitual and social structured opinions and personalised beliefs on reality. To give you a little history about my development into the transpersonal, my inquiry began in my early 20s. When I recovered from my first episode of schizophrenia, I began to question how and why the mind can act in such a devastating, destructive way. And I also began to develop a tenacious pursuit to understand what really is consciousness. Fortunately for me, my initial psychiatrist at the time specialised in transpersonal psychology, having also had association with the School of Philosophy for many years. I would visit my doctor every Thursday afternoon, and instead of being counselled, we would freely and eagerly discuss topics on the nature of consciousness. As the weeks passed, my awareness was becoming more and more in awe for the greater reality to existence that was being confided in me. Not only was I feeling great joy from such discussions, so was my doctor. Then one day, a few months later, I was struck, totally out of the blue, with a very brief yet very intense experience of non-duality, lasting for about 10 seconds in relative calculation. Within that time, I felt, and I stress the word felt, no difference between my immediate self and everything around and beyond me. The difference between here and there had gone. It was as if my individual boundaries had been lost and nothing distinguished me from all else. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, non-duality is an ancient philosophical term which simply means one and not separate. In regards to reality, all parts are part of the whole, and non-duality is considered as the central insight and perspective to transpersonal psychology. When it comes to explaining my experience, the classic analogy that comes to mind is the individual wave merging back into the ocean. It was that my subjective being had become boundless and merged back into the being of all reality in total. Just as transpersonal psychology accounts to verify the subjective source of all existence, so too does quantum mechanics verify consciousness as the basis and foundation of all reality, not only from the reference point of individual observation, but from all places everywhere, within, throughout and beyond everything. And my experience definitely revealed to me that is so. What has been accounted for by indirect scientific means was revealed to me directly and personally. And what I experienced directly has been accounted for throughout the ages, throughout all world scripture and spiritual traditions. As it is written, for in that we live and move and have our being. I was 23 when I encountered this very profound experience, and it has forever changed my orientation on life. Ever since that time, I've developed an undying passion for anything authentically transpersonal, and to share such sacred knowledge and wisdom for the benefit of others. With regard to my transpersonal experience, it occurred quite naturally during normal regular health, and was not a result of the symptoms of the schizophrenia illness. Hallucinations, delusions, grandiose religious identifications, known as the Jesus syndrome, or special narcissistic importance. As false as this experience may appear to immediate material and lay speculation, I have two very competent and reliable doctors who specialise in such unique cases as mine and can vouch for my authenticity and credibility in such. Since recovering from the illness and from that very revealing experience, I now have far greater insight into the subtle aspects of mind and consciousness. And since my recoveries, due to my own curiosity, I have researched much literature into this area of psychology. Reading about such has only confirmed that which I knew to be true all along, even when I was sick, that we are not the illness we suffer from. What we are is that which is the same in all of us. We are all the same in essence, we are all human beings, and our primary nature and essence is never in any way separate from the source of all life. From my encounter with it, I have found that a true transpersonal experience is non-prejudiced and non-preferential, and is open and available to anyone, regardless of illness, disability, race, age, gender, sexuality, intelligence, education, qualifications, experience, position, status, recognition, refinement, realization, and even religious preference for that matter. No matter what our degree of perception may be, whether delusional, accurate, or refined, it does not change the ultimate fact that we all exist in the same reality, being on the same planet and in the same universe. And if there is a creator of us all and all reality in total, then we all come under that equally, regardless of what we may believe or not believe about such, what name we give it, or what religious faiths we follow to find and reach that. Regarding psychosis and the transpersonal, a quote of mine quite simply states, "Only when you've experienced the lowest of the lowest are you then humble enough to appreciate and experience the highest of the highest." In my book, which is called Into the Light Again, I take great care to verify this area of reality, providing many justifiable sources of knowledge, scientific as well as the transpersonal. I also place a rather important emphasis on the fact that no matter what illness we encounter in life, whether mental, emotional or physical, it can in no way damage or corrupt our deeper subjective self, or ultimately deprive us of experiencing and realizing that greater aspect of ourself and reality in total. As common as spiritual and religious delusion is associated with mental illness, this does not in any way whatsoever take away from the ultimate reality that even the hell of schizophrenia cannot deprive us from our spiritual essence and source that is always there, true, pure and free, behind and beyond all the fleeting turmoil observed and experienced at the level of mind. And nor does it take away from the full possibility of a person who encounters mental illness to be just as much open to encounter a genuine, authentic, spiritual or mystic experience as anyone else may. It may be harder to authenticate given the circumstances, but no less possible. Having reached this far in my presentation, I would now like to backtrack for a moment to account certain terminology and language used to address sufferers of mental illness. I know for many people who do contend with mental illness, being addressed as someone who is a sufferer or who is suffering from schizophrenia, this does not sit well for them. However, I myself, who has been inflicted with the nightmare of schizophrenia, I certainly do not have a problem whatsoever addressing myself as someone who suffered from schizophrenia, mental illness. And even if I were to encounter another relapse, I would still also surrender my pride and be humble enough to accept the harsh, unavoidable reality to state quite accurately that I suffer from or am suffering from schizophrenia. And why is this terminology and language quite rightfully accurate to state? Because the symptoms of mental illness, the likes of schizophrenia, are severely traumatizing and violating to our natural and comfortable state of function and disposition. The illness cripples the regular operation and flow of our mind and body, and as such we suffer from and in its violation. That is the very nature of illness. So individuals who do contend with schizophrenia or any other mental illness, I question you to consider the inaccuracy of your denial about such, and maybe accept the fact that schizophrenia, other mental illnesses, or any illness for that matter, does cause us to suffer. I know we all have our pride and dignity to maintain, but you should not associate yourself as the illness. As soon as you do that, you fall into the trap of identifying your subjectivity with the illness. And this, quite frankly, is not right. Any expression of manifest reality, emotional, mental or physical, whether sick or well, is objective and can in no way corrupt or alter the subjective aspect of reality or ourself, the experiencer or observer within. If you want to keep your dignity and pride, always remember that your subjective self is totally true and free from manifest reality. And to empower your dignity further still, I will let you in on a little secret. Your subjective self is just as healthy, normal, and exactly identically the same as in a sane person. Subjectivity is the perfect God aspect that pervades, creates, sustains, and retrieves all manifest reality. You, me, everyone and everything, everywhere. You want dignity? You cannot get any more dignified than that. To realize that is far more empowering for you than anything else you could ever achieve or hope for, because I can tell you now that most individuals of sane disposition are not even remotely aware of such a quality and unity shared in subjectivity, the subjective absolute of all in all. But you should also have the grace and humility of heart to accept the unavoidable reality that when you are sick or unwell, you are contending with a very traumatizing illness upon yourself. And even I know for myself that we do suffer from it due to its symptoms of mental violation. As brilliant as he is, just look at David Helfgott, and it will present obvious to you that he is still in mental discord. However, just like David, my artistic skill was not distorted by the illness when I was unwell. So to sum up my backtrack here, consider this statement about illness. There is nothing graceful about illness itself, but our subjective self may suffer in grace. To actually realize the most important and precious part of yourself is totally free and untouched by any violation of manifest illness is an immense relief, comfort, and very enduring empowerment to go on to conquer and live free from the horrors of mental illness, far beyond what any gross biochemical material means could ever hope to achieve or offer. I am the person I am today from discovering such, and it is my greatest wish that all sufferers of illness, mental, physical or emotional, are fortunate enough to discover what I have. And it is now my primary objective to pass on that precious knowledge for the well-being of others. This is the foundation of what my little book is about. Here it is. It's my 8th work. It makes for a very revealing and inspiring read, and I hope to find a publisher in the near future. So if anyone out there knows of anyone who may be interested, I'd very much like to hear from you. This concludes my presentation. I hope I have left you with something hopeful and uplifting to consider and pursue further. Sincere thanks and gratitude goes to the Mental Health Association of New South Wales that sponsored my way to be here this week. Any questions you may have for me can be directed to my website or to me personally outside the conference. Thank you very much for giving me your time here today. It has indeed been a wonderful privilege for me, and I consider it a great honour. Thank you. To close this presentation on a more lighter note, I thought it would be nice to share with you a bit of the colourful history of my artwork. So here we go. Personal logo design, 92. Self-portrait, 89. Portrait of English actress Louise Lombard, 95. Godspeed Superman, 97. Willpower, poster art, 98. Cinema display for Casper, 95. The Hand, 95. Life Drawing, 94. Little Blue Swallow, 84. Sax Assault, Past, Present and Future, 94. Mercedes Sports, 92. Cadillac of the Sky, P51 Mustang, 89. Custom designed short Sunderland flying boat, 90. Federation Starship USS Excelsior, 95. Starship Flyby, Photoshop composition, 95. Captain Admiral James T. Kirk, 87. Personal Starship Enterprise design, 92. Front and back elevations of my Starship Enterprise, 92. Detailed cross-section of my Enterprise, 93. UFOs, 93. The Antarian UFO from the movie Cocoon, 93. Hey Alf, 88. Conceptual movie poster for Alien 3, 92. Robocop and Kane, 93. Computer magazine advert, 94. Billboard advert for Title Fight, 94. Tyson vs Balboa, promotional boxing poster, 90. Rocky vs Drago, 87, inspired from Mad magazine. Rambo, John J, 92, also inspired from Mad magazine. Rambo 4, Attack in the Gulf, 91, also inspired from Mad magazine. Ray at the Beach, 89. Holiday Girl, 92. Perfume counter display, conceptual design, 94. The Path of God, from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 89. The Final Battle, 81. The Nazarene, 98. And finally, Visual Meditation to My Sacred Place, 2003.